A few weeks ago, we shared a podcast on loneliness in parenting.
We did, and it was really heartfelt, I think, on both of our parts, just to kind of look back over those years and see how God used that loneliness to draw us closer to Him. And also, I think just in that conversation that we had too, open our eyes to all the ways that He used other people and circumstances to remedy that situation.
Oh, absolutely. And I love the comments that we received on the blog and on Facebook and how this resonated with so many of you. Today, we're going to dive in to another level of that loneliness, one that I didn't expect because I thought having teens in my home, we would just have these conversations. But there is loneliness in a home of teenagers as well. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Parenting to Impress, your go-to podcast to learn practical ways to love God and love others, and impress this on the hearts of your children. I am your host, Heidi Franz, and I am joined by my dear friend, Melanie Simpson, two moms who have made a lot of mistakes, but have found grace and truth along the way.
We've talked about the triggers that cause loneliness in parenting. We've talked about some of the truths that we can begin to take positive steps forward once we've identified those truths. Is there anything else that you want to add about loneliness as a mom?
So we have talked mostly about loneliness as a mom with littles, but Melanie, there is loneliness as mom of teens. And this is where I want to start. This part 2 of the loneliness podcast is, how do you deal with the loneliness of teens? And am I the only one in that? I mean, what does that look like? You think, well, how could that be? You have many adults to talk to, but let's dive in this.
Yeah, not fully formed adults. I think that's the key part.
Exactly.
And you're still their mom. So there's still a lot of things that you would share with your friends that you would not want to talk to your kids about.
Which I think that's the idea that, well, I can't talk to my 2-year-old, so that's why I'm lonely. I should be able to talk to my 17-year-old. So then what's the disconnect here?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's just it, is we need to remember the healthy boundary of these are our children. These, yes, we have friendships. That's such a beautiful goal, to be friends with your growing and grown children.
Oh, absolutely.
But, people have different perspectives, but I still feel like there should be a healthy boundary between me as mom. I'll always be your mom.
Right.
So there are certain things that I will talk to my girlfriends about that I would never talk to my children about.
So maybe the loneliness comes in with the expectation that my child is going to fill this hole that they really can't fill.
I have a daughter, right? So I had an expectation, still have it, that we are going to be best friends.
Right.
And that we are friends, and that will be true, I hope, for the rest of our lives.
Right.
But I would still say there are things that are not meant for her and I to talk about. I wouldn't feel comfortable talking to my daughter about my marriage. I wouldn't feel comfortable talking to my daughter maybe specifically about some traumas that I've had to go through. Or maybe I would do it in a much more surface level, but to really dive deep into those things, I don't know. I just feel like that's really meant for a peer friendship, not a friendship of that sort of age gap.
Okay. So if we are feeling lonely as moms of older kids, or neither one of us have experienced this yet, but the loneliness of empty nesting. Yeah. I'm not there yet. I'm really not looking forward to it personally, but that is something that let's dive into that. What does that look like? How do we work through the loneliness?
Yeah. I would say first thing is, again, same steps, identify the triggers. Am I feeling lonely because I have just spent 18 years pouring into my children, and that was my entire identity?
So there we can stop because we need to hit back to those mamas who are listening to those with littles. You cannot put your life on hold. And I'm going to say right now, with exclamation points on both sides, you cannot put your marriage on hold.
Right. Right. Because when those kids leave your home, you are going to be sitting across the table with that man.
And you're going to feel like that is going to be a long time away. you and I both are sitting here going, you're going to blink.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's over.
Yeah. I mean, we have, so one married, one who is in, school full-time as a college student age. And then we do still have two at home, but the 15-year-old, has school and then also works a part-time job and has friend activities. So more often than not, it is my husband, myself, and our 13-year-old at the dinner table now. That's a huge difference.
Right.
We went from 6 to 3, cut in half in the matter of 2 years. So I would just say, it goes a blink of an eye. But first, if you identify potential pitfalls now while you are still parenting younger kids, that's a great first step. Yeah. I would say too, if you have not been investing in friendships outside of even the people that are associated with your kids, in other words, maybe you don't have any friends other than the moms who were moms of other soccer players or the moms of other moms who were in, the plays together or band, whatever the thing is. Right. Well, when your kids go on and aren't around anymore to participate in these activities, who are your friends now? Right.
Yeah. You have to branch out further than just the friends of your kids. Yeah. The moms, let me say that again. Yeah. You have to branch out further than your kids' friends' moms.
There you go. That's a lot of
a lot. And that can be hard because that is where you're spending all your time. Ooh, now we get back to the time issue. How are you spending your time? This is just this constant cycle of, are you in the Word? Are you in church? Are you fellowshipping with other believers? Everything is going to continually go back to that because that is our foundation. And when things start to fall apart, loneliness being one, we've got to go back to our foundations. And are we investing our time where we should?
Yeah. I mean, identifying what is the actual issue and what are the truths about this issue.
Exactly.
I would say too, there have definitely been seasons of my life where I have had to, like you said, lay aside expectations for the friendships. I was able to take a friendship and kind of know that it was only going to be temporary, but it filled a season. So much like the parents of the kids that do activities with your kids, what did you say? Your kids' friends' parents?
There you go.
Much like that, where that's going to be a seasonal relationship or a specific circumstantial relationship, the inverse is true too. There have been times where my church group friends, I knew they were only going to be my friends probably for that year, for that season, for that specific purpose. And that's where I invested my time. Not that I, discarded my other friendships, but I definitely spent more time pouring into those relationships because they were more present in my calendar, so to speak.
Okay, so let's talk about how many friends do you need to have to not be lonely? Is there an equation like A friends equals not loneliness?
I think one was sufficient for me.
Okay. And I think that is so important. I wish you would have told me that like 15 years ago.
So why did you have that idea that you needed more than one? Like, what was the magic number for you?
Well, I don't think I had a magic number. It was just this idea that I needed to have a lot of friends.
Okay, but I'm asking you, where did that come from?
I don't know.
Oh, well, that's not helpful.
I know. I don't know why I had that idea. But the one thing that age has taught me, busyness has taught me, having older kids has taught me, is that I need 1, 2, 3 good friends. And I have different friends. Like there are things that I talk to you about. There's things that I talk to Christy about. There's things that I talk to Belinda about. Different people, I talk to different things. They fill those holes in different ways. But I had expectations. And so I think in the fear of loneliness, maybe, is this idea of I have to have all these friends when God had provided me with friends, and I was so looking outward instead of what was in my hands.
Yeah. And I would say along the same lines, I think often we go into marriage thinking that our husband is going to fill all of our needs and fulfill all of those things. Your husband absolutely should be your best friend. I 100% agree. But a girlfriend is different.
Absolutely.
And along those same lines, I don't think we can expect one person to fulfill all of our friendship needs as well.
Right.
I mean, I know I don't meet all of my friends' needs.
Right.
I mean, my goodness, I fail them constantly. But that's okay. So if it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 friends, whatever the number is that for you it feels good or is jiving for you and you have the time for those relationships, then great. And maybe you would say really 2 are really close friends and the other 7 are like that next tier, whatever.
Right.
But I think it is helpful just to acknowledge we can't be all things to all people.
Yes. The one thing that I have learned in the last few years is my time is very limited. And thus, who I choose to spend my time with is a little more calculated now than what it used to be, because there are people that I can spend time with that afterwards I pray that I have filled their cup. But when you're filling a cup, you're draining your own. And then there's other people that I am with and I come home excited. And my husband knows the difference, because when I come home, I just want to talk and I want to share. And I'm so excited and I'm ready to fight whatever life brings me. And so being able to say, man, I would love to meet with you for a few minutes, and then leaving time for those people that really, really feel.
Well, I think, what was it? Anne of Green Gable, like the heart friends,
Yes.
And
kindred spirits.
Kindred spirits. There it is. Thank you. So there are definitely those friendships. But like I said, I think when you identify what your need is, if it is currently a need just for adult human contact, that can genuinely come from just commiserating with another mom at the playground, going to the library for story time.
Yes.
You will absolutely meet other moms in the same age, with kids the same age range, because that's how they're usually orchestrated. There are lots of other opportunities at art museums, at your local church, or at like a county or a town festival. So just being on the lookout for those situations where you're like, oh, as a mom, I would go there. So there are probably other moms there too.
Right.
So just be open, be willing, pray ahead of time. Just ask the Lord, send people into my life, and then give me the sensitivity to know that this is somebody I can reach out to.
Right. And then also giving yourself the freedom to know when it is a relationship that you are leaving drained, to be able to go, you know what, this isn't the time for this. Yeah. And that's okay. Give yourself that freedom to step away.
I feel like that would be a great podcast. Healthy boundaries.
Healthy boundaries. Coming up soon.
Okay. Anything else we want to say about loneliness in mommyhood?
I think in review on loneliness, you are not alone. Period. Exclamation point. You are not alone. You are seen. God sees every single time you are putting clothes in the dryer and you are folding them and you are doing dishes and you are changing yet another diaper and you're wiping yet another nose. God sees you. You are not alone. So that right there, we could have done the entire podcast and ended on that statement. You are not alone.
Yeah.
And then secondly, in review, make sure that you are believing truth and not lies. And that comes from being in the Word and making sure that God's voice is louder. And then third in review is be praying about opportunities and then take the step for them. Make sure that your expectations are realistic, that you're not being a martyr, that you are truly looking for who can I fill their cup, and in reverse, God will use to fill mine.
Awesome.
We want to thank you for listening to the Parenting to Impress podcast. Be sure to visit ABCJesusLovesMe.com and check out the show notes for more information on topics shared in this episode. Please subscribe and share with your friends.